Hey, what's going on? JD here, and this is the Daily JD. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you here, Oren. Wasn't sure that was going to launch for a minute. It took a minute or two for things to just kind of get moving, but that's all right. Hopefully, you guys are having an absolutely fantastic week. Just to remember that you can find me on my socials at Painting on Twitter and Instagram, or on Twitch TV. You can find me there. I launch basically a tweet every time before I go live on Twitter. So again, thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. And just a reminder that, to thank our Patreon supporters. Of course, our Patreon supporters are, of course, Reviewy McReviewface, as well as on YouTube, of course, is Josh WRB and Mum's Universe. I know Mum's Universe is actually streaming right now. He is streaming some Horizons New Dawn on the PS4 over on Twitch. So after you're done up here, by all means, jump over there and check out Woodrow as he streams a great game from PlayStation 4. As well as, by all means, if you haven't already, check out Reviewy. His link is there in the comments, and give him a subscribe. Very creative guy, does a lot of cool stuff. If you catch him on Twitch, he's painting pugs. He does a lot of the own artwork for his thumbnails, does it all in Illustrator and Photoshop. He's had some great videos with the Big Chief Beef Jerky hat that he sewed together, which is amazing, as well as making his own KFC candle after KFC launched it in the UK and not here. So again, appreciate you guys tuning in. So check it out. I know Review is trying to get to, I believe it's 700 subs. So if you can give him a subscribe and help him out and watch some of his stuff, that would be absolutely fantastic. Hey, good to see you, Craftsmith. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. I always assume it's Scott. One day it's going to be somebody else. But good to see Scott from the Path Less Traveled there in the chat. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Obviously, if there's anything that you want to discuss today, by all means, throw it in the chat and let us know what you guys want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about one thing first, and then I kind of want to talk about the collective today and see what you guys have to say. For whatever reason, my website is not updating very, very fast. I'll prank you on April 1st and make it Mike. There you go. I know about as much technology as your grandparents. There you go. So essentially, just want to talk about one thing, and it is YouTube news. So it is interesting that some things going on in YouTube. One of them was that for those of you who don't know, there was a YouTube creator by the name of Austin Jones, who was a music creator that was doing a lot of cover work, had a YouTube channel. He did have a decent amount of followers on his YouTube channel. I didn't know him or of him until this story broke, but essentially Austin pled guilty for multiple charges in regards to getting underage fans to send him sexual content. So he pled guilty to that. He was convicted of that. And initially what happened was people asked that his YouTube channel be taken down, and YouTube refused to do so, which I thought was an interesting move, seeing that, this guy had pled guilty to these charges earlier on in the week. But essentially, YouTube has reneged that, and they have decided to basically take down his channel, which I think is the right move. That the fact the guy was basically doing music covers, and then when his fans would message him, he would ask these very, very young girls to send him sort of explicit videos of them dancing sexually and stuff like that. Ultimately, he pled guilty from the charges from 2017 for child pornography, and at the end of the day, Yeah, I shut them down. So, it's one of those things, like, I mean, there are millions of creators. I think that the numbers are going along the lines of that, YouTube has something like 2 billion active users or something like that. It's absolutely crazy, the amount of people that they have on the platform. But, to the same extent, I mean, I don't understand what the big deal is for YouTube when it's something like that, when obviously, this guy is using the platform to entrap young ladies into doing stuff like this, that it isn't just an immediate do away with it. Like, I get the standpoint that making music videos and music covers is not, a violation of YouTube's policy. However, basically, if that's what you're using to fish to have these people contact you, that, basically they should be just quick and decisive and done with. And especially, when you're looking at a conviction, when there is a criminal conviction and the evidence is pointing that that's what was happening, it should be a no-brainer. So I mean, I'm thankful that YouTube finally came to their senses and essentially got rid of this guy's channel. The other part of it is too is that really it should be one of those cases where you're looking at essentially a lifetime ban. And I mean, hopefully, the courts do have the power to do these kind of things, that hopefully that YouTube doesn't even necessarily have to ban him, although that would be a good idea, is that the courts hopefully have taken actions when this guy is ultimately released, which I will assume will happen at some point. That he is not allowed to use things like electronic devices, or have a cell phone, or all those kind of things that typically go along with charges such as that. So that's kind of the dark side of the internet in this point. But it was just kind of an interesting story that broke just sort of the other day. Again, the initial response of YouTube not to ban the channel, I think, is one of those kind of crazy things that it's why you would do that, I have no idea. So going to the comments, we'll take a look at that, and then we'll start discussing the collective. Again, YouTube's doing some weird stuff because it's showing there is absolutely nobody here. But, I can tell by the chat that there are people here. So thanks for tuning in. He knows, okay, good on YouTube for that. We don't need that crap on the platform. And absolutely. And again, it sort of goes back to the discussion of YouTube and advertising and trying to make the platform a lot more viable for people. I mean, obviously, we have enough problems on this platform with things that happen with guys like Logan Paul and, guys like PewDiePie, and, all the stupid stuff that they do that has an impact and causes things like adpocalypse. But, this is a whole different level of stuff. This is, committing a criminal offense, and definitely has no place on the platform as far as I'm concerned whatsoever, or period. So, I mean, good ultimately at the end of the day that they have done away with things. So, again, if you're in here, by all means, start dropping some commentary in there. Thank you. I just saw that Oren retweeted that we are in fact live. So thanks for that, Oren. Always appreciate it. I always appreciate the support of you guys doing stuff like that. Remember to smash that like button. So one of the things that I did want to discuss today was essentially the collective. And I think this is the link for it here. I haven't pressed a lot of these buttons. So the collective, that's the Facebook page. If you haven't gone and liked it already, please do go and do so. It will be where future notifications go forward. But I do want to talk about sort of what I'm looking at, where the plans stand now, and where I'd like to see things go. And I'm also looking, whether you're watching this live or whether you jump in here after the fact and watch the replay, because again, I don't post these anymore in my main feed. I just kind of do the live stream, and then ultimately at the end of the day, it's done. If you missed the episode, you missed the episode. But there is a time period where you can jump in from the link and catch the replay, which is cool. I'm not sure how long that lasts for, but it's one of those things. And one of the things I want to talk about is the collective. For those of you, who obviously follow me on socials and have been in here, know that I've talked about it for quite a bit. Some of you guys have been to the meetups that I've had. I had a photo walk in the summer. I had the rec room activity in November. I still haven't done anything for 2019. I'm still kind of mulling about with those things. When that will happen. Obviously, going out in -40 kind of weather is not going to happen. But, there's definitely some things that I've been kicking around. If you follow me on my socials, you will have noticed that I've been sort of throwing out, sort of questions for people. I'm sort of, testing the waters to see, what the interest in certain things. And I mean, part of the collective idea for me is not just, YouTubers specifically. It's not just photographers specifically. It's not bands specifically. It's about bringing all these communities together, because a lot of creative people, they do their best work when they work together. And, collectively they can move forward and help each other attain each other's goals at the same time, and do projects that, are mutually beneficial. And I really, really do believe, that that's the way to go, that, you can build together, you can grow together, that you can create things together, and, we're all better at the end of the day for it. So one of the things that I did post on YouTube was essentially, I started asking bands, because they hadn't been brought into the equation, but essentially about music and YouTube. And one of the things that I've been sort of discussing with people that I know in bands is the use of music in conjunction with YouTube videos. For a lot of creators, there are a lot of resources out there that you can go and get, where you can basically get your music. You can pay for basically, sites like artist.io. You can pay for Epidemic Sound. You can pay for SoundSpace. There are a lot of, Premium Beats, all these sites that basically offer royalty-free music. You can have a monthly subscription. Some are very, very good, like artist.io. You can use it for commercial-based endeavors, which is really good because commercializing tends to be very expensive. For a monthly subscription, there's unlimited downloads. You can basically grab a whole bunch of music and, work from there. And those are all absolutely, fantastic, programs. Part of it, that I've always sort of been looked at, because I've been involved in music for a very long time as a photographer, because I know a lot of people in, Calgary's music scene, as well as, beyond that. I've always kind of wanted to meld both together. If you watch things like my Japan vlog, which is a few years old now, crazily enough, is that a lot of the music that I utilize in there was actually local artists from the Calgary scene. So, my sort of bigger picture thing is that, I sort of want to have the opportunity for, people to essentially work together. The vast majority of bands were essentially looking for no more than credit. And I think sometimes we can do a little bit better than that. If you take something like a service like Epidemic Sound, you will typically pay about $10 to $15 a month US. So I mean, you're in it for $15 to $20. You can use all the music you like. So if you are a regular on the go creator, such as myself, where you're producing 3 to 4 videos a week, I mean, it's an incredible deal because you are basically getting songs for pennies a piece. If you're not producing at that kind of rate, it gets a little bit more expensive because, if you produce one video, you are paying basically an amount. And obviously on the back end of the things, the creators of that music are compensated for their contributions to that site. When people use it, they get paid royalties from Epidemic Sound, but it doesn't touch the royalties of the individual on YouTube. And that's, a big part of it for YouTubers. YouTubers want to be able to create videos and utilize music without having, sort of copyright strikes, without having copyright claims against their production. And that's what we're looking to do. So my question for you guys, and you can definitely answer here, and if you're watching on replay, you can definitely answer me on social media. As creators, what, would you like to see? I mean, for me, I think it's completely fair to, have a system where you can say, these are the tracks, you're not going to have a copyright claim from these guys if you download them. And you know, if they want to give their track away for free, that's entirely up to the band, but I also think it's completely reasonable to pay, you know, $1.50, $2, what you would normally pay on a platform like iTunes or some other platforms, to download the music to utilize it as well. And you know, Scott from the Path Less Traveled is in here, and you know, I utilized one of their songs in my Japan vlog, where I go and check out the giant Godzilla. And when I was in Japan, because I was, you know, when I was in Japan, I was filming and I was editing. You know, on sort of the daily basis, I just basically went and, you know, I had Scott's permission. I just downloaded the song off their account. So I'm curious to sort of where you guys stand on that, and what you think about that idea. You know, the other part of it as well is, you know, how to sort of, you know, deal with, you know, setting that up. You know, part of me doesn't want to put it out to the big wide world and have everybody access it, and then have hundreds of thousands of people sort of, you know, come and, especially for free songs, kind of go and then have difficulty sort of, you know, tracking that and taking a look at it. I feel that that's kind of unfair to the artists, you know, but it's definitely a possibility to do, because the other part is, if it's not behind something and you offer a song for free, we're kind of cutting the legs off the artist. Because if I'm a fan and I'm not making videos and I know I can go get it from a source that's free, they're probably going to do it. So, you know, my question is, you know, would you like to see the collective with some sort of back end in those regards? So I'm going to jump into the comments, see who else is here. Again, you know, I'm not seeing anybody watching, but I definitely see some comments there, so I know the stats are way off on YouTube today. So, hey, Peter, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you, Josh. Thanks. Dan, good to see you here as well. Dan says, I'm still on an MCM, so Epidemic Sound is still free for me. That's kind of crazy. It's interesting that you know, that you're still attached to that, and that they haven't released everybody, which is kind of crazy, because that has to be costing them money. I'm sure at some point these MCNs are going to figure it out. I mean, with Defy Media blowing up and closing down, I think it's, you know, pretty close to the end of it for the vast majority of MCNs anyways. You know, the only reason that they might keep people on is that, you know, if the time comes where you do in fact become monetized, that again, you're in a situation where essentially they will take away, you know, your portion of the money, and that's the thing. But I mean, at this point, if you're not, you know, getting any kind of money from it and you're getting a freebie, well, that's, you know, perfectly fine. So there you go. Josh says, want to grab some wings or something and brainstorm? I am totally down for that. You just let me know when you want to do that, and I am cool for that. Scott says, we'd happily contribute our music to creators. I think it would be neat to see vlogs come out that aren't slow piano and 808 beats with chipmunk hook vocals. And you know what? Like, I will say this. A lot of the music, you know, that I use in vlogs currently, I was using Epidemic Sound. I use a lot of DJ Quads. You know, if you take a look at my videos, everything is attributed to DJ Quads. Is because, you know, DJ Quads was free, and typically, you know, it's what people are kind of grooving on. Is why I sort of went with that stuff. But if it was left to me, if I had my ultimate choice of stuff, my vlogs and the music I chose would be so much more different. You know, I think there is a really good relationship that can be struck up between bands and creators, and that ultimately, you know, it can help people move forward, because I do feel that they are mutually, you know, sort of beneficial. You know, again, you know, I do feel like there should be some sort of, you know, financial contribution towards the band, you know, and I want to hear from the creators here, you know, $1 or $2 for a song. Is that something that you're willing to pay for a song? And I mean, again, I think that's a good deal in the sense that Epidemic Sound, if you're paying $10 to $15 a month, if you're not in the same boat as Dan, that, you know, essentially you can get, you know, a song or songs and utilize those as well. And again, you know, it's just getting out and getting the reach. I think it's, you know, a dollar or two is absolutely nothing, because at the end of the day, even if you are a small YouTuber, it is quite a price that you can afford. There we go. Craftsman says, I would love some songs from local artists using my cosplay music videos. That would be fantastic. That is why I'm grabbing what I can when I can. But if I do get my 1040K, I will have to reapply, give money to them. Yeah, the thing is with Epidemic Sound is that as long as you can grab everything that you want. Like, you could download their, in theory, Epidemic Sound, how it works is you could download their entire catalog to your hard drive. But it's when you publish it, and that's what they go by. So if anybody doesn't use it, what happens is, if I'm a member of Epidemic Sound for the month of February, and I publish all these things in February, and I use their music, everything in February is fine. The moment that March 1st comes, and if I use something that I've downloaded at that point, it's no good. They'll basically claim it. So you'll get, sniped in those regards. So, and that goes for their sound effects as well. So it's always good to know. But I'm allowed to still use their service on the MCM, so I'm going to use the hell out of it. Scott says, I didn't definitely mean to roast the style of vlogs. I just find most vlogs these days are chill music vibe, and very similar in style. I know you're not roasting on it, and I'm saying that the reality is that the reason it is what it is because that is what is available, and there is not a ton of options. For those of you who have used the YouTube music library, it is, it's not very good. The music is very, I don't even know what to say it, like elevator-ish. It's very elevator-ish. You can find some good tracks on there. Typically, all the best tracks are on the first page, and then, of course, if you use those, you hear the hell out of them everywhere else. So you see them in the videos, and that's part of having something that is unique. You do want to stand out, and for the exact reason that Scott is saying that it's like most vlogs these days sound like this. You kind of want to stick out from that, because not everybody is super into things like DJ quads. Like, I use DJ quads actually for the intro of the Daily JD, and I know when I used it initially, a lot of people were saying, I hate that song. Like, that's, why don't you use something cool? You have much better stuff. But that's what I had accessible at the point. So there you go. Dan says, as for music of the collective, if you find some way to make them work where the artist gets some coin and we get free use without bots tagging us, it'd be great. See, the only issue with that is that, at some point, somebody's got to pay. So if the bots aren't tagging you and, basically putting a copyright claim, which, any music that we would utilize in this service would not basically have, that anybody using it wouldn't get tagged in that way, there still has to be a payment. So if you're not paying the artist and YouTube's not paying the artist, then nobody is paying the artist. And that's, to be quite frank, is not what I'm about whatsoever. I do believe that everybody has value, and that everybody, deserves to get paid at some point. There has to be something out of that relationship. So, I mean, again, some artists may opt to give their stuff away for free and only be interested in, sort of, a credit in the thing, a link to, the song, whatever the case may be. But there does have to be something in there. And I'm even juggling with terms of, actually physically putting the credit in the video, in the sense that you have to physically put it in there, much like you used to see in the old MTV kind of music days, where they would run the little, music at the bottom. They would say, this is the song, this is the title, this is the label, and here it is. Or a website, definitely looking at that as well. So, I mean, it's, to me, it has to be something that is equitable, that, people sort of benefit from it. I mean, ultimately, your vlog, if you have better music in it, is definitely better for your vlog or your review or whatever you're putting your music associated with, any of that stuff. If you are using, like I said, YouTube's music library, and you sound, like YouTube's music library, which I don't use because I find it absolutely terrible, it's going to be what it is. So there you go. I would happily pay a couple bucks to use for music from local artists. That is cool. Dan says, honestly, I wish that SOCAN would step up somehow and we were able to pay a fee to them for YouTube music. I had put the song name in one of my reviews because they asked me to. I asked if I could use their music. I had no problem with that. I had to put a song in. I don't kind of lost me there. I had to put the song name in one of my reviews because they asked me to. When I asked if I could use their music, I had no problem with that. And generally, people most definitely would do that. And you know, that to me, that's kind of like the bare minimum. You know, if you're utilizing something, you should always kind of give credit where credit is due. You know, it's only, you know, kind of the good thing to do. It's like when people use photographs, you know, it's like, hey, you should always kind of credit the photographer. It should be an unspoken thing, but you know, if you look at copyright and how it works on YouTube and people's attitudes towards it is a little broken. So, you know, there's kind of issues essentially with that. Sorry, you were talking about putting the name in their song and video, much music style, so I did. there you go. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, you know, like I said, you know, credits, you know, is something. So the other part of that is too, and this is kind of going back to Dan's thing, is the other part that could be done is, you know, even though this is not my favorite thing to do in the world, because it models something after, you know, basically epidemic sound, is that you have some sort of, you know, yearly, I would say yearly, a small yearly user fee to utilize the library. But again, you know, there's some issues with that. Is number one is that who knows how deep, you know, sort of the music would be initially to start, how many people would be involved. You know, again, it's, you know, should it be a select group of people that are utilizing it, or should it be open to everybody, you know, is kind of the question. You know, you don't obviously want to flood, you know, the music as well, that everybody's using the same song. So 5 people will put out a video in 1 week and everybody's using the same song. Probably not the best overall. So, you know, again, this is why having a brainstorming session is important to me, because, you know, it allows me, number one, to speak what's on my mind and sort of hash things out, because it is all very much a work in progress. The nice thing is I can go back, and this is, you know, in a way for me better than writing things down, because, you know, I just kind of have my verbiage and it's all recorded and I can watch it on the back end. So, but, you know, definitely, you know, getting feedback is also crucially important as well. Pass says, here's another idea for the platform. Video guys would reach out to artists for intro music, etc., similar to Fiverr or something similar. There you go. Wings tonight. I use CrackMax WingMac to see what's good tonight. I'm down for that. I could definitely do with some wings. Sounds like a plan. I can definitely do that, and we can brainstorm as well. So I like the Fiverr idea as well. You know, there are a lot of guys that are out there. You know, even having, you know, a donation system might be something that is good. You know, or, you know, even, you know, just a referral link or something, you know, that basically brings you to the point. On the music end of things, my other thought process too is that one of the things that I'm thinking 100% of including is that all artists will have a presence, a public presence on the collective website. So anybody that is contributing music to the collective, there is also a public presence where people can essentially send them, where there's a landing page. So for example, the Path Less Traveled, if they have a collection of songs, you know, there will be a user backend where they can basically, you can access that for your vlog, and everybody in the vlog has to, you know, hit the certain terms that are laid out. You know, for example, must credit in credits, link to this, you know, social media account, and then have a direct link for people to actually buy and download. And part of my thought in there, which is, you know, essentially kind of probably going towards what Dan is somewhat suggesting, is that, you know, minus the cost to process something, because you have to run a credit card and that costs you about 5%, and there's some other things there, you know, that everything minus the fees of what it costs to process something goes to the band in a payout, which I think is really good. But again, that'll be dependent on how many people sort of get directed and what kind of traffic it generates. And I think, that's a good and reasonable solution in those regards as well, that there would be 100% payouts. So that being said, that's kind of the big musical portion. Again, by all means, send me suggestions to my socials. Let me know what you think. If you're a band and you happen to be listening or happen to stumble across this, or somebody shares the link for this video, and you happen to have any ideas, by all means, sort of shoot them across, because again, it's all about sort of being mutually beneficial in those regards. I think it's really, really important in building up these communities. And the sidekick from that is, there's kind of that inter-promotion kind of thing. It's, bands can easily say, hey, take a look at this vlog. They utilized our song. It's really cool, for the same thing. It's like, hey, these guys are really cool. They let me use their music, and there is definitely that cross-pollination that is always good, out there, and creates posts for both ends that are, really, really good. So, well, we should go to the rec room next week. We could definitely do that. I'm always down for poutine and beer and video games. I will never, ever complain about that. So the other part of the collective that I kind of really wanted to brainstorm about is, one of my things is, as is multiple revenue streams. Multiple revenue streams. What I mean by that is you're doing things and you're getting multiple revenue streams that come back to you. So, for example, myself, I get royalties from companies that sell my photographs. I get royalties from, film. I get, a whole bunch of stuff. I get stock photography stuff. The issue is that typically the cuts, and this is, quite honestly, very straight talk and very straight business talk is, with my agents and with a lot of the agencies that represent me, typically the cut is 50-50. So whatever they sell my stuff for, right off the hop, they take a 50% commission. I'm fine with that in a lot of ways because they have a lot more reach than me. They can get the stuff out there. They have contacts with magazines and all sorts of stuff that I don't have. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I get a paycheck because of that. However, that being said, I always like to have revenue streams where I am capturing the lion's share of what's going on. And part of the collective is what I'm thinking is because we have so many, creatives doing a whole bunch of things, and you want to maximize your time, so a lot of us are taking videos, a lot of us are doing time lapses, a lot of us are taking, photographs of all sorts of stuff, and essentially you could submit that to stock, which is good. But what I'm thinking with the collective is kind of a twofold kind of thing. Is number one is that there is, again, some sort of back end for the creator where they can basically share their clips with other creators where it can be utilized in their video, and there would be, the expectation of, basically cross promotion. So, much like a collaboration, it's like, hey, I'm here with, this creator, here's his website, is that you have a video, if they utilize some of those clips, you don't have time to go out and get a time lapse and utilize somebody else's and throw it in there, that they're giving credits in the credits. It's not a huge contribution or anything like that, but I mean, it's a bit. And on the front end of things is basically having essentially a creator's stock site in which they can create assets, in which they can create all sorts of stuff, and sort of put it out there. And that would be open to a, sort of mass audience, much like the, front end for, the music creators, where they capture the lion's shares of their songs being downloaded because people enjoy their music. So, having things like stock video, for example, things like story blocks, if you go in there, you are paying upwards of, when you're talking about footage, you're talking about $30 odd US a month. And again, it gets a little bit expensive, but a lot of these stock sites are, it's expensive to download a clip. You can pay, $200 for a stock clip. Obviously, 50-50 kind of split for the vast majority of these sites, and having something that is creator, driven, where they're pulling the lion's share, obviously, again, taking away, a tiny, tiny little bit, like a 5%er for things like, credit cards, which is pretty normal. And then, basically giving the lion's share again back to the creator is something else that I've been sort of, throwing up there, and again, it's a secondary revenue source, or, another revenue source for creators. So, very interesting. Hey, good to see you, Woodrow. Thanks for dropping in. I know you were streaming, was it Horizon Zero on the PlayStation 4? Which is super cool. I couldn't really say much because I was getting set up for this. And if you're still streaming, that's awesome. Hopefully, guys will jump over and see you there once they're done. Dan says, what about a Google Drive or Dropbox for something like this? Have individual folders where they have links for their websites, YouTube, anything else you can give credit. While that is a good idea, sort of file sharing wise, my quick answer to that is probably not, because there needs to be some sort of control. I mean, there is definitely the idea for me is, anything that is going to be sort of, we'll call them creator assets, whether that's music, video, titles, whatever the case may be, need to be placed behind, sort of some sort of access point. And the reason for that is, and individually marked where it's tracking IPs, and, you can see who's essentially downloading what, is because if the system, does get abused, and it does happen from time to time, is that you can lock those people out. And I'm not saying that anybody's going to abuse it. It's just essentially, future proofing it, and, keeping it within an ecosystem that, is essentially controlled. So you can give temp access Google Drive to people and then remove them if needed. So it could be done that way. But again, like I said, I like the IP tracking idea as well. There are some things contractually that will need to be done, checkbox wise. It's like, in downloading this, this, and, it's just making sure that people are doing things on the level. So there's kind of no excuses in the end. And I hate to say it that, not knowing what you're supposed to do contractually is a bad, way to go about things. And I can say that, people don't read contracts all the time. I see it all the time. But ultimately you just want to do, what about a good old fashioned FTP site? I'm not worried about the logistics of the end. I've got that pretty much ready to kind of go when it's ready to go. Like I said, it will be the back end will be user password accessed. For those who get it, it will be simply laid out, and, at the end of the day, that's kind of the route that's going to go. So, hey, good to see you, Brian. Thanks for tuning in. I would be very interested to hear what your conversation with the premier was like today. Hopefully you were heard and listened to. That would be absolutely fantastic. So yeah, on the front end of things, essentially having all that available for people, and like I said, general usage as well, is that, if you want to put your materials out for the general public and have them downloaded and license it and have various licensing agreements available, that be available to you. So, it will be very, very interesting to see how that will go. Jumping back to the comments, I've been planning to start selling stock video footage. I love the idea of Collective doing something like that. That is cool. Still streaming and watching at the same time. Can anyone join the Collective, like someone that is not Calgary based? It will be wide open, or not wide open. It will be available to people sort of around the globe. Definitely, you are up there on my list, Woodrow. You have been an awesome friend to not only the stream and the channel and Lloyd and JD. So, love what you do and all that kind of stuff. What well, if you need a tester, let me know. I love to break stuff like that. Cool. We'll get to that point at some time. And then the last portion of it as well is that I'm sort of jumping around is that for those of you who have known me for a very, very, very long time and have followed me since, my extreme mountain biking days will know that I do have the capacity to do merchandise in-house. Everything from, sort of die cut, decals to silk screening. Although the silk screen press has been put away for some time, it can be brought out of, sort of the dungeon and put back into use. But the other thing that, definitely considering is, setting up a system where people can come and utilize that for producing their own merch. Again, when you take a look at companies like Spreadshirt, or if you take a look at some of these other companies where it's basically print on demand, number one problem is that essentially, it's not the best quality merchandise. Number two, it's very expensive, and your cut at the end of the day is absolutely terrible. So utilizing some old, sort of accounts that I have, getting t-shirts for, sort of rock bottom prices, basically wholesale prices, and enabling, creators to grab that, utilize the screen printing. Obviously, you're going to have to provide the labor yourself, and we'll have to work something out because it would be within sort of my working space as well. But there are definitely things that can be done in those regards, but much more like a community press and system. So it will be very, very interesting to see how sort of that all plays out. But again, having something like a universal merch store, is something that we're toying with. So, I mean, you can see there is a lot of lofty kind of goals that are set out there. Definitely looking for direct feedback on what you guys think. I think as far as rollout goes, the things that will most likely happen first are things like the music end of things, as well as, having the online, sort of store for people outside for, basically photography, music, and, basically stock video. So we will go. Jumping back to the comments. Well, the issue is there's an election coming. I just wanted the government to listen to the Filipino community who never wins the coming election. We brought up mental health and heritage. It's cool. Filipinos are an invisible minority. That's the meeting about. We got her to listen at least, which is fantastic. I have to say that, anytime that you can get a politician out and have them listen to you is a really, really good thing. So, cool. That is awesome. Yeah, Brian, we were just essentially, the summary is that we were, what's the word I'm looking for? Brainstorming on the collective, talked about, sort of an arrangement between musicians and creators to hopefully spark a, kind of universal collaboration there, and how that would work. We talked about, everything from stock video to stock photos to music distribution, and of course then collectively, screen press and merchandising. So that's kind of the quick summary of it all. And of course, at the very beginning, for those of you who missed it, YouTube did take down the channel of Austin Jones. For those of you who don't know who Austin Jones is, he was a creator that essentially was luring young girls to send him sexually explicit videos via his YouTube channel, and was convicted of child pornography charges. And YouTube finally agreed to take down his channel, which is awesome because somebody like that shouldn't exist there, So there you go. So if you have any questions or suggestions or anything along those lines, by all means, please throw them in the chat now. That's kind of my verbiage of what's going on in my head at this point. I mean, I still have to think about a meetup, and what to do next. I would like to do some sort of photo video walk, although at -40 it isn't happening anytime soon. But definitely want to get those kind of things going, or get some workshops going, or you know there's a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm always open to ideas. If there's anything that you guys want to do, and there's any way that I can help facilitate that, by all means, let me know. I'm more than happy to kind of help with that as well. So while I'm waiting for some questions, I'm going to click the play ad button. Based on a complex criteria, you may or may not see an ad. If you do see an ad, that's fantastic. Hopefully you'll let me know in the comments. If you don't, you'll probably let me know in the comments as well. But it's been kind of a mixed bag with that. Some people have seen some advertisements from time to time, which is really kind of cool. But at the end of the day, there you go. And Dan sees an ad. Holy crap, he sees an ad. It's a miracle. It's a February miracle that Dan, it showed up on my computer, and that might be part of it as well. It might be depending on where you're watching from, what you're watching on, and a whole bunch of other things. It's YouTube's kind of an interesting space. I will say this as well, is that sort of the hype of the Ghost Mullen has died down. That video is essentially on its way out. It's almost at 500,000 views, which is phenomenal, and I'm eternally grateful for that. It has helped my channel with the subscribers things. I think I've had over 1,000 subscribers due to that video. But it's interesting. It's interesting, how it sort of, eventually peters out, and I'm not surprised in a sense, because, it's news that's kind of old at this point. But it definitely has helped breathe light into things. This Wednesday, I released my first video of sort of a series that I'm doing, which is exploring Calgary communities. I met up with Josh WRB. We went out and, we filmed in Kensington before heading to the Calgary Video Creators Meetup. I plan on doing more videos like that. I want to thank the subscriber Rocks and Socks, who sent me the idea, and we'll be getting to their video. They suggested a video specifically in a community specifically to me, so we will be getting that at some point. Obviously, some of these videos I'm going to do a little bit of a longer take. Normally, most of my stuff, like vlog-wise, is within a day, but I think with this, in order to do it the justice that it probably deserves, it might take actually several days to do some of these videos. And obviously, I'm looking for nicer weather, because, nobody likes walking around a community at minus, 40 degrees outside. It just sucks. So, all that kind of stuff. We should do Woodbine and hit Fish Creek. Absolutely. I'm also accumulating stuff. Keep in mind that at some point I will be doing an 80s vlog. So anybody that kind of wants to be involved in that, by all means, let me know. I have accumulated a whole pile of, best way to describe it is 80s crap. For it, everything from TVs to VCRs to, you name it, old films, so I've got a bunch of stuff, old cameras. The whole thing will be shot on basically handy cams. Definitely will be represented in that kind of way. And that's something I look forward to doing. That will be coming out. Who knows? I'll probably shoot that in the summer, including 80s garb. And I kind of want to tie it into the Calgary communities thing as well, and talk about, some of the stuff they used to do back in the day, and some things that were there that are no longer there, and people may or may not remember. It's funny because one of the things that I probably will talk about is for those of you who have been in Calgary for a long time, and maybe if you know it, by all means drop it in the chat. But things like the Westward Club. I don't know if anybody here, a lot of you guys were probably not even old enough to go to the Westward Club, but I mean, it was a huge deal back in the day. Not to spoil anything, but it was a fantastic club that was, you know, kind of one of the hubs of the Calgary music scene at the time. You know, it's obviously not there anymore, sort of, but it is and it isn't. But you know, it's kind of like the old Republic. You know, it's one of those interesting things. If you're doing Woodbine area, I would be down to do that as I live close by there. Cool. I am down to Fish Creek at some point as well. Cool. So get to deal with some construction too. There you go. So that's all I have kind of for you this go round. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Last couple talks I've had have been extremely long, and I do appreciate you guys hanging out for the vast majority of that. Hey, good to see you, Morning Dew. We're just wrapping up, so thanks for tuning in. Appreciate that. So again, you know, with the ideas with the collective, you know, and all those kind of things, by all means, shoot me whatever kind of information you think is good. If you have any ideas, shoot them my way. You know, again, you know, let me know what you think is, you know, reasonable. You know, is it a Patreon thing? Is it, you know, again, is it, you know, a restricted access kind of thing? Is it a contribution kind of thing? You know, on the sales end of thing, you know, what do you want as a creator when you sell, you know, a video or so on or so forth? You know, what's completely reasonable? And again, you got to remember that, you know, we have to do is keep the infrastructure there. Let me know what you think about the screen printing thing, all that kind of stuff. Again, you know, my socials at Paint Inc. You can get me there at any time. You can DM me at any time. I always get back to pretty much everybody on socials. I tend not to ignore people at all. I'm too much of a social butterfly that way. So again, thanks for tell the Connie story. Mitch, do you really want me to tell the Connie story? Because if you want me to tell the Connie story, I can. If you don't, we'll just leave it at that. I'm going to wait 2 seconds to see if Mitch wants me to tell that story or not. Morning to his do tell. I will leave that up to Mitch because, you know, Mitch, it'll depend because this is live and this is public and all sorts of stuff. But we'll wait for it. What's the Connie story? All good. Okay, so just so you know, I'm going to give you some backstory here. This might take a few minutes to tell. But Mitch on Two Wheels is a good friend of mine. We have been friends for years. Mitch is a mountain biker. He was an accomplished racer, mountain bike race. He used to race for Giant Bicycles, which I'm sure you've heard of. His channel, Mitch on Two Wheels, he still goes out and he rides mountain bikes with a good friend of ours by the name of Steve, and they hit up all sorts of stuff. Hopefully I will be back in shape and not beaten up so much that at some point we will make an appearance back on a mountain bike and riding trails with those guys, hopefully by this summer. As far as that goes, I have been, you know, basically last month I hit about 400 kilometers. I've already hit 150 odd, I think, this month so far. So I'm increasing. I'm getting a lot stronger, which is good. It'll take me some, you know, gumption and time to get back to that. But anyways, Mitch and I have been friends for a long time. You know, he helped work on things like Trail and Park Boys, the videos and stuff like that. So we have had an ongoing joke for a long time about Mitch's mom. So Mitch's mom, her name is Connie. You know, I've met her. I know her very well. And, you know, I will say this, that Connie is a lovely lady, very attractive. And I think that always kind of bothered Mitch. And it kind of became a running joke after a while. And every once in a while, I bug him about his mom. So, you know, people will do things oddly to get at people. And what I did, and this sort of ramped up, I guess, essentially the other day, is that Xbox Live, you can create, you have your gamer picks. So there's the picture that you put up there. Usually it's a caricature. You select it from a list of characters. And I decided, I guess, to kind of shoot a shot across the bow. And that is, if it ever focuses, which you can't tell, which is fine, but that's a photograph of Mitch's mom as my gamer tag which he ultimately reported me to Xbox for, which I thought was classic, with the quote, unsportsmanlike conduct using my mom as his gamer pick. So that was that. It escalated today because I stole that picture from his mom's Facebook page. It's just her profile thing. We were joking, and I think Mitch forgot ultimately at the end of the day what kind of person I am. Is that when you dare me to do stuff, generally I will kind of do it. If you think that I won't do it, I'll probably do it that much more. We were kind of joking. I got it from her Facebook page, and he's like, "Well, you should add her as a friend." I'm like, "I should," and he's like, "You would never do that," and it escalated, and I'm still waiting for Connie to accept my friend request. She hasn't accepted it as of late, Mitch, but I will double check now, seeing as we're live and telling the story. There are a bunch of other Connie stories. Such as the Condor, but that's not my place to tell that one. Basically, another one of our mutual friends. He will fill you in on that if he ever does see. I don't see it. I don't think she's added me yet. So, so far, so safe. But that is a small section of the Connie jokes that have gone on for the past, I'll say, 15 years. So there you go. By all means, as Mitch was a good sport to share that, you should check out his channel, Mitch on Two Wheels. He does some absolutely epic mountain biking, everything from fat bike mountain biking in the winter, along some great trails to some great trail riding during the summer. For those of you who know Riley, that has been in this chat on and off, and Riley, a former Oakley rep who drops in here every once in a while. Riley's also good friends with us all. So, we all have a good time and we have a lot of fun, and Mitch is always a really, really good sport about it. And I find it comical that every time that I log into Xbox, that he gets to see his mom's face, and the fact that his wife makes fun of him for that. So there you go. All right. So again, appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to sign out now, and I'm going to smash that play like button, but I won't be back when this ad is done because I'm cutting the stream off. So thanks again. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. By all means, head over to Reviewy's channel, Reviewing McReview Face. Check his out. He is searching for 700. Check out my good friend Mitch on Two Wheels. Well worth the sub. He's trying to get to that 1,000 points so he gets remonetized as well. And again, please do send me any kind of thoughts that you do have on the collective. I want to hear them all. And until next time, see ya.